Just because the economy is down, that doesn't mean that your spirit has to be down with it. Isn't that true? Hello students, welcome to Chosen Classes. This is a part of series of video lectures covering economy related current affairs targeting Prelims and Mains 2021. This video covers current issues from 5th August till 15th August. Let's begin. B2C online sector. B2C means business to consumers. The word B2C refers to the process of selling products like goods or services directly to the customers without the intervention of any middleman. Now, basically all online services comes under this B2C sector. So, the B2C sector or the business to consumer sector is one of the fastest growing e-commerce in India because of ease or convenience. Ease to start an online store coupled with ease to do online shopping helps the sector to grow very fast. Now, the government of India has formulated Consumers Protection Act of 2020 and under this act, all online sectors like all online related trade comes under the ambit of this law. Now let's look at some of the provisions of this Consumer Protection Act. Now, according to this act, any aggrieved customer or any aggrieved consumer can file complaint about a defect in goods or deficiency of services from where he or she lives, which means consumer doesn't have to go to the place of business or a consumer court to file a complaint. He or she can do an e-filing of consumer complaint from the place where they reside, where the consumer reside. Now, this law introduces a new facility called product liability. Now, what is this product liability? Any consumer can claim significant compensation as relief due to the negligence of manufacturer or service provider, and a group of aggrieved consumers can join hands and file a class action suit against the manufacturer for a negligence of service providing. Now, any misleading advertisements or adulteration of goods will also lead to punishment with imprisonment for the concerned manufacturer. Now, the e-commerce, according to this law, now is tightly regulated, and e-companies or e-commerce companies are now expected to disclose all relevant product information, including country of origin, and respond to the grievance of consumers within the prescribed timelines. This article discusses a couple of options to revive the economy, which is now facing a slowdown. Number one, the first option they've discussed is balanced budget multiplier. Now, this is a situation wherein government increases public spending. Now, increased spending, one, it will lead to an increased demand, but it will also lead to increased fiscal deficit. Now, this increased fiscal deficit can be balanced out by increasing taxation. Now, what will happen when the taxes are increased? People will have to pay these taxes from the amount that they have saved. So, what will people do now? They'll work hard to aggregate or to pile up their lost savings. Now, what is really happening in this situation, in this balanced budget multiplier, is government increases spending, and in order to balance that, government is also increasing taxation. Now, this whole process may revive the economy, but increasing tax, but the government does not usually resort to this policy because increased taxation is quite unpopular. Now, what are the other options that the government have to revive the economy? Government can borrow money from RBI or world financial institutions like IMF and World Bank. Now, money when borrowed from RBI, it is called monetary financing. Under monetary financing, RBI takes newly developed bonds from the government and supplies government with the money. Now this money is used by the government to promote physical stimulus. Now this is one option. Now some experts think that increased monetary financing can be inflationary. Now, the other option the government have is to borrow from financial institutions like IMF and World Bank. Now, there are a couple of problems when we take loans from these world financial institutions. The first problem is conditionalities. We never know what conditionalities these financial institutions lay upon the government of India. The second is time. Now, the process of bargaining of loan takes a lot of time. So, the government has to allocate or delegate most of the time and its energy to bargaining of loans. The other problem is hard currency. Now, we will take loan from, let's say, World Bank. Now, after the prescribed time limit, we will have to pay back the loan amount, both the principal and interest, in the form of hard currency. Now, India would have to raise this amount of hard currency by improving exports. Given the scenario, it is a Herculean task for India to raise that amount of exports. Hence, this option is also not viable. Now, some experts feel that now that economy is low and unemployment exists, the monetary financing may not lead to inflation. So, the available option now, the most safest option now available is monetary financing. RBI has signed a monetary policy framework agreement with the government of India, and under this agreement they've set up a monetary policy committee in 2016. Now, this monetary policy committee consists of 6 members, 3 from the RBI and 3 members from the external resources nominated by the government of India. Now, what this MPC or Monetary Policy Committee does? The main task of this Monetary Policy Committee is to set up a benchmark interest rate in the economy. Now, the current mandate of MPC is to maintain an annual inflation rate of 4%. Now, this inflation rate should not be below 2% or should not be above 6%. Now, this particular MPC is set up for a period of 4 years, which is ending in 2020, that is this year. Now, this Monetary Policy Committee sets up a meeting every quarter, and if the inflation rate persists for more than 6% for 3 consecutive quarters, then MPC should give a written explanation to the government regarding the high inflation rate. Now, the problem here is in June, CPI inflation recorded inflation of 6.1%, which is above the upper mandate of inflation target that is mandated by the Monetary Policy Committee. Now, what is CPI? CPI is Consumer Price Index. Under this index, there are certain basket of goods like foods, fuel, transportation, housing, electronic goods, healthcare, and education. Now the CPI index calculates the price fluctuations of these goods in order to estimate the cost of living of common individual. Now that the economy is low, why are we seeing an inflation? Because of the increase in food and fuel prices. This food and fuel prices led to the increase in CPI inflation. Now, along with this, or besides this food prices, there is a deterioration in consumer sentiment, which is contributing to GDP contraction. Now, in this article, they've identified two problems or two factors which are acting as deterrents in economic growth, and they are increase in import tariffs and increase in inventories. Now, what is an inventory? Inventory or a stock is the goods or materials that are stored in a warehouse or that are stored by a business with the ultimate goal of sale. Now, for example, I have a manufacturing company which produces pens. Now, the inventory is the stock of pens that I have with the ultimate goal to produce. No, eventually I will sell these pens, but for now I am stockpiling these pens. I am not able to sell all the stock because of demand deficiency. Now, this article states that there is an increase in inventory or stockpile because of demand deficiency, which is leading to increased debt to GDP ratio. Now, according to this article, the debt to GDP ratio is rising from 72% to 85%. Now, what is debt to GDP ratio? Debt is what government pays, and GDP is what government produces. Now, the ability of the government to pay its debt indicates debt to GDP ratio. Lower the ratio, better the economy. Now, what needs to be done to improve this debt GDP ratio or to improve demand efficiency? So, according to this article, a little bit of stimulus on the demand side is needed for the economy to pick up. We've already discussed how increase in food and fuel prices led to increase in inflation. The point to be noted here is because of increase in inflation, RBI is forced to keep its policy rates unchanged. The irony is the change in policy rates does not have to do anything with food or fuel prices. See here, the increase in food and fuel prices, the reason behind the increase in food or fuel prices is different. It doesn't have to do anything with the policy rates of the RBI. However, because we are still considering CPI inflation, RBI is forced to keep its policy rates unchanged. Now, you can ask the question, why are we using CPI inflation when the increase in when the basket of CPI includes food and fuel, which are highly volatile? Because the CPI inflation measures cost of living of an individual. Now, according to this article, RBI has also mentioned a couple of points regarding loan moratorium and loan restructuring. Now, what is loan moratorium? Moratorium is a period in which borrowers are not required to pay principal or interest amount on the loan they have taken to the RBI. Let me explain. Because of lockdown, there is a slowdown in economy, and many people have lost their jobs, and they were not in a position to pay back interest or principal that they have taken from banks as loan. So RBI extended this loan moratorium until August 31st. So basically this is a cooling period in which we don't have to pay interest or principal to the banks. Let me take an example. Let's say I've taken 1 lakh rupees loan from a bank, and because of COVID or lockdown I lost my employment and I'm not able to pay monthly installments of say 2000 rupees which I'm supposed to pay. So RBI said that I don't have to pay the amount until August 31st, but after August 31st I am supposed to pay the amount in monthly installments, and RBI said that this will not reflect in bank's balance sheet and it will not also reflect in credit history of the borrowers. Now take the same example of 1 lakh rupees. Now I am paying 2000 rupees as monthly installments to the bank. Now let's say even after the lockdown I'm not in a position to be able to pay 2000 rupees to the bank. Now I will enter into an agreement with the bank to alter my interest rate or reduce my monthly installments. Now I will say, or my bank will say that okay, if you're not able to pay 2000 rupees, at least pay 500 rupees. Now this process is called loan restructuring. Loan restructuring basically means an agreement between the borrower and the bank to ease the options with which borrower can be able to pay the loan amount. Now RBI has also said that this loan restructuring can be extended till December 31st with an extension of 2 years. Now it is up to the banks to decide how to do the restructuring of loans. Now see here, banks allowed to restructure stressed corporate and MSME loans. In 2019, Government of India has set up a committee called Ashok Dalwai Committee in order to double the farmers' income. Now, one of the key recommendations made by the committee is to improve post-harvest infrastructure. Now, based on the recommendations, Government of India has set up Agriculture Infrastructure Fund to promote post-harvest infrastructure. Now, what is post-harvest infrastructure? Whatever the infrastructure or material needed by the farmer before the harvest, like seeds, fertilizers or solar pumps, are called pre-harvest infrastructure. When the infrastructure needed by the farmer post-harvest is called post-harvest infrastructure. For example, cold storage, warehouses, ripening chambers, silos, grading and assaying chambers, and transportation facility, etc. Now, in India, this post-harvest infrastructure is the weakest link in whole of agriculture sector. So, in order to fill the gaps of infrastructure in this particular area, government has introduced this farm infrastructure scheme. Now, under this, they have set up a corpus of 1 lakh crore funds. Of this 1 lakh crore, 10,000 crore is to be spent in this current financial year, and the remaining 90,000 crore is spent in the coming 3 financial years with an installment of 30,000 crore each. Now, what are the benefits of this post-harvest infrastructure to the farmers? I'll explain by taking an example. Now we've seen the price fluctuations of onion and tomato recently. Now one day we are buying onion for 10 rupees a kg and tomorrow we are buying onion for 70 or 80 rupees a kg. The increased or the highly volatile nature of these prices is because of improper storage. Now, every year India is losing around 90,000 crore worth of food produce as wastage because of improper storage. Now, with this scheme, the post-harvest infrastructure is developed, and because food wastage is reduced, it will automatically improve farmers' income. Now, there are two components under this farm infrastructure scheme. One is credit guarantee and the other is interest subvention. Now, under this scheme, credit guarantee of up to 2 crores is available to the beneficiaries and interest subvention of 3% is available up to 2 crores for the loan of up to 2 crores to the beneficiaries. Now, who are all the intended beneficiaries under this scheme? Farmers, PACS or Primary Agriculture Credit Societies, FPOs, farmer producer organizations, any agriculture entrepreneurs are all eligible under this scheme. Now, this scheme is implemented for a period of 10 years, that is up to 2029. Now, there are a couple of issues with this scheme because under National Horticulture Board, already the provision of post-harvest infrastructure credit guarantee is implemented. So, some experts feel that instead of government, instead of launching a whole new scheme, it could have diverted these resources in improving the already existing scheme. The other point is when farmers take a loan from the bank, they'll charge an interest rate of 4%. But when an FPO take a loan from a bank, they will charge an interest rate of 14%. So even with an interest subvention of 3%, the rate will still be high. However, Mr. Modi said that India has a huge opportunity to invest in post-harvest management solutions like warehousing, cold chain and food processing and build a global presence in areas such as organic and fortified foods. Taxpayers Charter. Government launched a new scheme or new platform called Transparent Taxation Honoring the Honest that provides Faceless Assessment, Faceless Appeal and Taxpayers Charter. Now this Faceless Assessment and Taxpayers Charter is coming to effect immediately, but Faceless Appeal will only come into effect from 25th of September on the birth anniversary of Deen Dayal Upadhyay. Now, what is this Taxpayers Charter? Taxation in India involves two parties. One is taxpayer and the other is tax department. So this charter, Taxpayers Charter, provides a certain obligations or duties to both the taxpayer and tax department. It aims to build trust between these two parties. Now, there are 135 crore Indians in the country. Of them, only 2.5 crores come under tax bracket, which means only 2.5 crore people are paying taxes. Of them, only 1.5 crores people are effective taxpayers. Now, you need to understand something here. When 2.5 crore people are paying taxes, only 1.5 crore are paying effective taxes. Let me explain. Let's say, for example, I have an annual income of let's say 2.75 lakhs. Now the amount above 2.5 lakhs, that is 25,000, is my taxable income. So I will pay my income tax pertaining to this 25,000 rupees. Now after paying, I am claiming deductions from the government by contributing to PPF or by showing housing loan or educational loan document. So within this 25,000 rupees, I am contributing to PPF, housing loans, education loan, etc. So by showing all that, I am claiming back my money which I am paying towards income tax. So even though I am paying money as income tax, that money is not reaching government's pockets. Now I am giving you another example here. Let's say my income is 10 lakhs per annum. Now after deducting all my contributions to PPF, housing loans or education loans, I am paying an income tax of say 1 lakh rupees. This 1 lakh rupees is reaching government's pockets. So that will be an effective tax. So now I will become an effective taxpayer. So according to the government, even though 2.5 crore people are paying taxes, only 1.5 crores are paying effective taxes, which is contributing to government's income. So our Prime Minister have appealed to those not paying taxes despite having the ability to come forward and commit themselves to the cause of making the country self-reliant. Now, what is faceless assessment? For example, while claiming my IT returns, I have a problem. What would I normally do? I will go to the IT department and file a complaint myself directly. Now, there is a chance that I may be subjected to harassment by the department official. Now, in order to prevent all this, the faceless assessment is introduced. It was already introduced as a pilot project in certain cities like Hyderabad, Bangalore, Mumbai, Pune and New Delhi. But now this is extended countrywide. Under this faceless assessment, I will be filing my complaint online by sitting at home. So I will not know who I am giving complaint to. And the person who is assessing my complaint will be chosen randomly from anywhere in the country. So both the parties remain anonymous. I will not know who is assessing my complaint, and the related or the delegated official will not know who he is working for or whose complaint he is assessing. So this reduces the risk of bribery and reduces corruption, thereby reducing the number of tax disputes, so finally contributing to the taxable income to the government. So here, as it said, the assessment system seeks to eliminate corrupt practices by doing away with the territorial jurisdiction of income tax offices. RBI transfers money to the central bank. Now, where do RBI get its income from? Reserve Bank of India invests in securities or bonds in both domestic markets and foreign markets. Now, the interest earned from these securities act as income for the RBI. Now, I will explain this concept by taking an example. Let's say a person's monthly income is 10,000 rupees. Now, he will divide his income in 5 parts. He will allocate 2,000 towards food, 2,000 towards housing, 2,000 towards education, 2,000 towards health, and the remaining 2,000 as savings. Now, he may not have any health issues. Still, he will allocate the 2,000 rupees under health bracket, which will act as buffer in case any health issue arises. In the same way, RBI delegates or divides its reserves, which are called capital reserves, into 5 different accounts. So let's see the division of capital reserves of RBI. The first one is contingency fund. Fund under contingency fund is set apart to meet the unforeseen contingencies that arise from monetary policy or exchange rate fluctuations. In other words, or to put it simply, the amount or the money allocated to contingency fund helps in case of financial emergency. Now, according to a committee by the RBI, around 5.5% to 6.5% of RBI's balance sheet is to be maintained as contingency risk buffer under this account. Now, the second is asset development fund. Under this, the asset development fund, the funds or the money allocated under this asset development fund is used to invest in subsidiaries of RBI, let's say NHB, etc. The third and the most important is currency and gold re-evaluation account. This takes the major share of the capital reserves account, all the accounts in capital reserves. Now, RBI holds certain gold reserves and foreign exchange reserves on behalf of the government. So, any price fluctuations in the gold or foreign exchange reserves will be reflected under this CGRA account. Let's say, for example, if the gold price is increased, in order to maintain the balance of the increased prices, the amount in CGRA will be increased, or the money allocated into the CGRA will be increased. Now, when the rupee is depreciated, in order to maintain the depreciated rupee value with respect to the foreign currency, the amount allocated to CGRA will be increased. Now, the other two accounts under this capital reserves are investment revaluation account. Under this, the buffer amount is maintained under this account to accommodate gains and losses of foreign securities and domestic securities. And the last one is foreign exchange forward contracts valuation account. Under this account, RBI maintains losses or gains from foreign exchange forward contracts. Now, of all these, CGRA, which is currency and gold revaluation account, and contingency fund are most important for the RBI because the most share of capital reserves of RBI goes into these two accounts. Now, after allocating money into all these accounts and after meeting its own expenses, whatever money is left as surplus will be given to the government by the RBI. Now, that surplus amount which is given by the RBI to the government is called dividend. Now, in this article, according to this article, in the previous financial year, around 1.76 lakh crore is given by the RBI as dividend to the government, but this year only 57,128 crore is given to the government because of the less income to the RBI itself. With this, I'm winding up today's video lecture. I hope you all liked it. Please stay tuned to Sourcing Classes for more informative videos. This is Dr. Spurti signing off. Thank you. Happy studying.